Welcome to Roots and Branches of Lehi, the podcast where we get to know the faces, stories, and lives that make up our community. I'm Ryan Harding, and I started this podcast as a way for us all to connect with the people we live alongside. Growing up in a small town, I learned that connections go beyond blood. They're built through shared experiences, friendships, and the moments we celebrate together. Each week, we'll sit down with someone new from Lehi to share their unique story, their passions, and what they love most about living here. So whether you've been here for years or just arrived, join us as we deepen our roots and reach out to our branches one story at a time. Welcome, Jordan Harmon, to Roots and Branches of Lehi, where we get to know you a little bit. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Give us a little background of yourself. So you live in Lehi then?
Yep, just right over by the cemetery.
Okay, so not too far.
Yep.
And how long have you been here for? Did you grow up here? You transplant in here? Yeah, give us the background here.
We grew up in Burley, Idaho.
Okay.
Technically Declo,
Okay.
but no one knows where that is. It's about 280 people. It's very small town. Ended up coming to Provo for school.
Okay.
Took some classes at BYU before my mission.
Yeah.
Went and served an LDS mission for 2 years in Mexico, and then been here ever since. Met my wife. She was actually at ISU, Idaho State University, and we connected through a mutual connection, and so started our family here, and then technically in Provo, and then we transplanted to Lehi in about, I want to say it was just a few months before our third baby was born, Evelyn, and so that would have been 2016.
Okay.
So just under 10 years.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, good amount of time then. So you've been here for a little while then? So,
yeah.
You like Lehi?
Yeah, Lehi's great.
So
it's getting a little crowded.
It's getting a little crowded. We have a lot of people here now. The word's out. Everybody likes Lehi, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's perfect. Give me a little background on, so what do you do for work then right now?
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and so it was really just a function of what I wanted to do with that. And so grew up as a farm boy on a potato farm, and as my wife and I got married and started our family, we started a company. Originally it was called VidAngel. My brothers. Yeah. There's 4 brothers and a cousin that started it, and the original thesis was that we could allow parents to have the control to the entertainment that comes into their home. They can skip and mute anything they want, and that we would build a large enough audience that we could then actually go and serve that audience with original content. Yeah. And fast forward almost 13 years later, 12 years later, it's now called Angel, and it's been a wild ride. Yeah. So let's dive into that, right? So a lot of people have heard of Angel Studios, have heard of VidAngels. So let's start at the beginning, right? So that was a device or an app or something like that a lot of people then to fast forward through the stuff that we didn't want to see. It is a technology that allowed parents to have a super powerful remote where you could preset what you wanted skipped and muted. Yeah, okay. So it just allowed the parent to have the control, and so we launched that in 2013, 2014, and so that business started to grow pretty rapidly in 2015, 2016 until Disney decided they didn't want it to grow anymore.
Yes, talk about it. You don't have to dive into a lot of things there, but like, how was that? Because business was doing well. You're probably feeling pretty good about things and stuff like that. And then, did you have an inkling that might be coming?
Yeah, we had talked about how every company, CleanFlix, there's probably almost a dozen of them that have all tried over the last 30 years to do something like this. Yep. And all were sued out of existence. Now, luckily in 2005, the Family Movie Act had passed and basically allowed for, as long as someone owned the rights to the intellectual property, a family, they could do whatever they wanted with it. Sure. And so that was our thesis, was that we'll have people buy DVDs, and then we'll allow them to stream those copies onto their home devices, and they'll be able to skip and mute wherever they want. But they have to own the DVD itself. Sure. And so we ended up having warehouses full of hundreds of thousands of DVDs to make sure we could supply. I think it was like a digital version of Redbox to some extent. Yeah. And before we even launched the business, we actually sent a letter. We had one of the top attorneys in the entertainment industry. It's probably a top 5 attorney. He put together an argument for us saying, hey, here's your business case and here's how you're going to make the studios money. Yeah. And here's why it's legal. Yeah. And we're like, okay, cool. Let's send that out to all of the studios. Yeah. Didn't hear anything back from them. Okay. Let them know again a few months later, nothing. We thought, okay, let's start moving forward. Yeah. This is going to generate potentially millions of dollars for the studios, and so it's a good business for them. It's launched, still didn't hear anything from them, and then there was a catalyst moment where they decided, Disney, Warner, 20th Century Fox, and Lucasfilms decided they didn't want us to grow anymore, and what their motivations were. Obviously, their arguments were around some laws, around DMCA laws, but for us it was just a function of, hey, we would love to pay you guys for whatever you need in terms of a license or however you want to do this. Yeah. But the reality is no one in the entertainment space wants their content adjusted from how they intended it. And so it was a little bit of a sticky situation, but that was the impetus of what caused that lawsuit to happen.
Okay. And is that because I think we've all grown up with a movie that's on TV, or you're on an airplane and it's different. How did those places justify then? Because it always seems similar to me. Then that's the same thing. Like, how did they get away with it?
The great irony is there's multiple companies, I won't say which ones they are, that have created entire business models of taking studio content and then cutting to all the sex scenes versus cutting out the stuff. They don't seem to bother with them very much. Those guys just do their own thing.
Fair enough.
So as to what the motivations are and why it all happens, I wish I knew. But I think for Disney, it was a function of we were going after the values audience, which has been their world. It's the biggest audience in the world.
Sure.
And although, now 12 years later, people are seeing the underbelly of Disney and seeing how they've abandoned that audience.
Sure.
But at the time, I think they're making a business decision of just saying, okay, these guys are clearly going to come after this audience. Let's figure out a mechanism to make sure that doesn't happen.
And so the lawsuit happened and stuff like that. I remember that being in the news. Ultimately, I think you guys lost that one, right?
We lost the preliminary hearing.
Okay.
So there was a preliminary hearing that happened in the courts that we were in California.
Okay.
And we learned through this process that the court is called, the one that is in California is called the bank.
Oh, okay.
And they call it that because basically studios can bring anybody into that court and they win.
Okay. Interesting.
We had a friend, not really a friend, more of an acquaintance, a distant person that we didn't even know that well, reached out to us and said, hey, you guys are getting destroyed in those courts. There is a law where if you file for bankruptcy, you will be able to yank it from that court into your home jurisdiction, just because it'll go into a bankruptcy court. And we're like, we're not filing for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because then you have to give up control of the company to a trustee, and there's all these implications around that.
Sure.
And but Jeff felt immense peace, my brother Jeff, and Neil, and they were just like, we need to move forward with this. And one day we filed for not Chapter 7, but Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which allows you to restructure, and it's a kind of a protections bankruptcy clause, and it pulled it out of California. Okay. And we started our appeals process for the initial ruling, which we had lost. Yeah. And within a matter of months of starting that process, Disney reached out and said, hey, let's settle. Let's be done with this.
Really?
And so they actually came to us and said, we'd love to settle it. Because the original ruling was that we were going to have to pay. They had given us a ruling of $62.5 million, which is more than they'd given any pirate in history.
Oh, wow.
And so it was, but when we filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and then we had launched Dry Bar Comedy simultaneously, and later the Chosen TV show Around Christ, those were really starting to take off. And the trustee had come into the office with us when we got appointed a trustee for our bankruptcy, and they have the ability to come in and say, hey, you don't have the revenues to support it. We're going to have to liquidate everything, and you're done. Yeah. And he came in and said, listen, I'm going to figure out if you guys are the bad actor, or if Disney is, and I'm going to shove it down one of your throats. To be honest, I think he thought ours. Sure. And then after he went through the process for a few months and vetted everything, he came back and said, no, I think Disney's the bad actor. I don't think they're actually doing this for IP protection. They're doing this as anti-competitive, and I'm going to shove it down their throat. Sure. And so but he said, in order for me to do that, I need you guys to grow in your revenue so that I can go to the judge and say there is a path for them to pay off this $62 million if for some reason that ruling stays. If you don't have a path, there's nothing I can do. Sure. And he said, so what I need you to do is I need you to generate $1.5 million between now and the end of the year. This is like November. Sure. Oh, off of The Chosen had just launched the first 4 episodes, and we were going into the second 4 episodes of the first season. And he said that, to put that into context, we had launched the first 4 episodes and it didn't go well. Yeah. From the time we had launched them all the way through October, November, we had generated like $700,000. Okay. Yeah, it just wasn't. Yeah. So it was. But my brother had this thought with some of the team members he had consistently seen on social media that there were people who we'd be advertising The Chosen, and people would jump on the comments and say, hey, I'd love to watch this, but I can't afford it. Oh. And then inevitably someone would always respond and say, hey, DM me, I'll pay for it for you. Oh. It's amazing. Yeah. And Jeff was like, man, this is so crazy. Like, people clearly love this show when they watch it. Yeah, they're willing to pay for it. And there's a bunch of people who want to watch it, but they can't afford it or whatever it may be. And he said, but not everybody wants to watch it because he would bring people over to his house from his ward, his local congregation, and be like, let's do dinner together. Mm-hmm. And then right afterwards, he would force them to watch 2-3 episodes of The Chosen. He's like, we just spent 2 years of our life sacrificing for this. You have to watch this. Yeah. They would always walk away being like, that was amazing. Yeah. And there's got to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who fall into that camp of they're ready to watch it, but they don't have the friend ready to give it to them. And so that was where Pay It Forward was launched, is that the idea is, what if we can connect the people who want to share it to the people who want to watch it right now without them ever meeting?
Sure.
And so we launched the Pay It Forward model in November, did a complete tech rewrite of the entire company, and it accelerated very quickly. And by December 31st, we had generated $1.5 million in a few bucks.
Wow. In a period of 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it was wild.
Wow. And
Saved the
it came out of necessity, too, I guess, really.
To be fair, every great thing out of Angel has come from a situation where not only was it necessity, but we were in dire straits.
Back against the
wall. And it was
wall.
like, we either innovate or we die.
Oh, sure. Wow. And you've innovated.
And there's more of those than I'd care to talk about, but
Fair enough.
There's a lot of them.
Sure. Yeah, we all like things to just go smoothly and nicely and just uphill. Okay, so keep going with that story then. So you ended up Disney. So you got the 1.5 million, and then the trustee
went to the judge and said their growth pattern suggests that they'll be able to pay off the 62 million over a 14-year schedule with the growth they have. And the moment he filed that, the Disney attorneys came back and said, "No, we want them to go to Chapter 7 bankruptcy." And the judge was like, "Hold on a sec, you don't want to be paid back?"
Yeah. Wait a second.
I got to rethink you guys and what you're doing and your motivations now because of that.
Yeah.
And it was very quickly after that Disney came and said, "Let's settle and be done."
Okay.
So for us, we had told our audience we were going to fight to the end, and we went to them and said, "Listen, there's an opportunity to settle here. Happy to fight this to the Supreme Court. Or the original content business is booming. Dry bar comedy is now getting tens of millions of views a year. Chosen's blowing up. What do you want us to do?" And the overwhelming majority of our investors, the crowd investors who actually, and that's a whole other story, who saved our company when Disney sued us.
Yeah.
Those investors voted, I think 85-90% of them said, "We want you to go and tackle original content and create the alternative to the entertainment space."
But you didn't leave the whole editing out thing, though, too, right?
So after we settled with Disney, we ended up selling off the VidAngel aspect of the business to a good friend of ours named Bill Aho. So we separated the two.
Okay.
That technology is now run by VidAngel Entertainment, which is a separate company.
Okay.
And then the Angel Studios Inc. is focused purely on the entertainment side of the business.
Yep. Okay. So they are two separate companies.
Yes, they are two separate companies.
So VidAngel is where you started, but again, that's a separate thing.
Still use it, still love it. But
okay. So you're a
and we have an option to buy it back if we wanted to. We felt strongly that company would thrive with a dedicated team focusing on its P&L, and Angel would thrive. And we were right. Both have grown exponentially more than we would have if we had one team trying to focus on both.
Okay. And does it differ on VidAngel? Does it differ from the original technology versus where it's at now, where it doesn't touch the DVD or touch the thing?
Yeah, good question. So we pivoted right after we got sued to a streaming environment where we actually allowed members to not only subscribe for VidAngel, but in order to watch anything, they had to have a subscription to Netflix or Amazon Prime or Apple, whatever it may be.
Sure.
And so you can go and connect your different streaming services, and that's how you can access, but it's actually through your streaming service.
Okay.
And then, but the technology still allows them to skip and mute anything they want to have and not seen for their families.
And so then it just becomes a really good remote.
Yep. It's a really good remote for the streaming platforms.
Yeah. Okay.
Sweet. And it's doing really well. They've done exceptionally well.
Okay. All right, so then let's pivot now back to where you're at now.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said, Angel Studios, that's the brothers that are doing all that now. And so you've pivoted to original content. Obviously, The Chosen is something a lot of people know about.
Yeah.
It's been a great show. I think you guys have parted ways, though, too, right?
Yep.
Do you want to speak to that? Tell me how that all went, I guess, and stuff.
Yeah, so The Chosen was the first original narrative series for Angel, and it was a function of they had created a pilot episode that was just really fascinating, and Jeff was like, "Man, this is really good.
Yeah.
We should look at this as a TV show." And we didn't know that Dallas had actually gone and he had pitched the entire entertainment industry on doing a TV show and been rejected on that.
Yeah.
And when Jeff approached him and just said, "Hey, what do you think of doing a TV show for this?" He's like, "I've got some ideas around it."
Yeah.
And Jeff's cool. Let's go crowdfund the entire season 1 budget. And Dallas was like, "We're never getting more than $85. No one's going to want to put money into a TV show." And Jeff's, "No, they will. And here's how we do it," because we had actually done it. We did one of the first crowdfunding campaigns in history, first 10 actually, where we raised $10 million in 5 days right after Disney sued us. From our audience, basically, we came to them and said, "Listen, they're coming after us legally. You probably never get your money back.
Yeah.
But if you want to support us in trying to go and drive this forward and create this company, you can invest."
Sure.
And again, $10 million in 5 days, it was a miracle. It was miraculous.
Yeah.
But we took $5 million to start Dry Bar and The Chosen, and we took $5 million to defend ourselves in the lawsuit. But with The Chosen, we used our audience to crowdfund the first $2-3 million, and then we continued to use ads and our ability in the ad world to actually go and drive awareness and raise $10 million for season 1. Again, when we launched the first 4 episodes, didn't do well. We launched the Pay It Forward innovation. That did extremely well, and that kind of blew it up between seasons 1, 2, and 3. And then as the show continued to grow, sadly, there was a parting of minds of them feeling like they had outgrown what we were going to do for them.
Sure.
Obviously, we disagreed, but at the same time, it was like, it was what it was. And I still love the show, and I still love what they're trying to do with it. But it's one of those things where they've now gone off and done a larger Amazon deal with Amazon Prime. And we've continued to focus on the next iteration of this kind of community crowdfunding model, which is now the Angel Guild.
Okay. And why do you think the crowdfunding thing works? Why, or what do you attribute that success to? Because that was a novel idea, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that, like you said, that was
never happened. We broke the record with the Chosen, then we broke it again with David, the David movie.
The David movie, yeah.
But the funding is just a unique thing in that it allows for the community to feel true ownership and get involved in a pretty significant way. But I think the real reason it works is because you're focusing on something that may seem like a niche product to some people, but actually has broader appeal. People just don't realize it. And so when we looked at crowdfunding and through our iterations, initially it was equity crowdfunding. We've now transitioned over into a membership where every member can pay $20 a month, and their membership goes to fund all the TV shows and films on Angel's platform. But that allows for them to have a few key elements that I think make it work. One, Angel Guild members who pay us $20 a month, they get a vote and decide on everything inside of our ecosystem.
Okay.
I, as a founder and president of the company, I cannot bypass the audience. If there's a TV show that I love and they say, no, we don't want it, we can't take it.
Yeah, okay.
And so they feel this ownership and this ability, they have this veto power where they're like, okay, we've got real power in this ecosystem. And they understand what our North Star is. And our North Star is very unique in that our mission is to tell stories that amplify light.
Okay.
We define that as whatever is true, honest, noble, just, authentic, lovely, admirable. Anybody who knows the scriptures, that's Philippians 4:8, but that's the core of Angel's North Star.
Okay.
So between them having the voting power, them having this North Star that they're all driving towards, and then them also having the ability to feel like they're a part of the filmmaker process, meaning they're voting on rough cuts of movies.
Yeah.
The David movie was seen months before everybody else to a small demographic in our app of Guild members who got to watch it, give feedback, give their thoughts. All the movies that we just announced this week at CinemaCon in Las Vegas, we have a bunch of Westerns and action movies and a faith film, like they're all really exciting and fun, but the Guild's already seen all of those.
Sure.
So them being able to step behind the curtain, there's a saying Jeff says all the time that is, Harmons live on the other side of the screen. This is what he tells his kids when they're watching too much entertainment.
Yeah.
We live on the other side of the screen. And people would always tell us when we talked about the Angel Guild and the concept of actually having them vote and greenlight, vet all of our projects, people are like, you're never going to get someone to pay you $20 a month to do your job.
Sure. That's really what...
Like, your job as an executive is to go vet and you greenlight the projects. And I'm like, you're misunderstanding. I've met over the last 12 years so many billionaires and so many hundred millionaires who all want to create movies. It's like, there's not an exception. I've never met a billionaire who's like, doesn't have a desire in some way, shape, or form to create a movie. Is it that he became a billionaire and all of a sudden he now wants to... that just birthed into his DNA and he wants to create a movie? No, it's we as, in my belief system, we as children of God all have the desire to create. We're creative. We were born that way.
Born to create.
God, we were born creators. And so what we're doing is we're moving to where we're giving the access of that ability to give feedback, vote, decide, fund with your $20 a month. We're moving that from just the billionaires and 100 millionaires to anybody
that can pay $20.
That can pay $20 a month.
Sure.
To where they actually are contributing to the TV shows and the films with their membership. They're greenlighting them. They're giving feedback on them. They are part of that. And so that launched that new iteration of when we saw the Chosen thing coming to a head, we had pivoted to this. We had already been developing it for about 5 years, but we really accelerated the timeline on the Angel Guild membership, and we launched it in October of 2023 officially, where we were marketing it. And in the last 2.5 years, it's gone from nobody to where we just passed 2.2 million Guild members.
Wow.
And so it's just grown
2.2 million.
2.2 million.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's just grown extremely fast.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the tip of the iceberg as to when you look at the total addressable market of people who want values-based entertainment in the world.
Yeah.
Harris X did a poll and it basically said that almost 70% of people, maybe it's even a little over 70%, want their values more represented in entertainment.
Sure.
They want good storytelling. They don't want it to be cheesy and dumb.
Correct.
But that's what we're going to go solve.
Yeah.
That is the biggest market available in the entire globe. And so we believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg as to what this model can do.
I think, which makes sense to me, because I think that's one of the reasons I think The Chosen appealed to so many people. Was it was the first time Christ was represented in a way that's, oh, I believe that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's, okay, I appreciate Hollywood that you're doing a movie about Noah or about Moses or
trolls.
But it's, I don't see that. It doesn't true to my faith. Do you know what I mean? I don't buy that. And so I think that was the first show where it's, oh, hey, that actually brings me closer to the scriptures, closer to Christ, closer to whatever, right?
And it's been nice to watch the major streamers adapt a little bit to that, where they're seeing what we're doing and they're going, and House of David's now on Amazon, and there's more and more kind of faith-driven TV shows that are coming into the ecosystem. And we've never had the desire to be a faith-based studio.
Sure.
We want to be a values-based studio, and we want faith as a segment of that.
Sure.
But for us, it's just great stories that are super compelling, told at the same level as anybody in the entertainment industry, but that have truth. They're just interwoven with truth versus subtle lies and nihilism.
Sure. So you brought up David or other movies. So when that goes to the members, you say they see that and stuff like that, and they give you feedback. Do you ever change things? Like, oh, okay, we should add this scene or take away this, or do you end up changing some of the movie because of that feedback?
Technically, we have we don't directly produce the content. We're more the technology, marketing, and distribution arm in the technology that enables the filmmakers to be connected with the audience.
Okay.
So we've got dozens, if not 100 plus producing partners around the globe.
Okay.
They're the ones producing. Phil Cunningham is the director of David, and he lives out in Cape Town. He's an amazing man. I'm actually going to go to dinner with him in LA this week, and he's just one of those guys where he's true to his core.
Yeah, good.
But they take that feedback, and then they get to go through the noise. They'll have their guild score, and they get to go through the noise of all the comments and figure out what's meaningful.
Sure.
And we give them data on their drop-offs, where they're losing people in the film, what's happening. And we've had almost every single one of our films do iterations from their first guild voting, some of them multiple iterations, and they've had their scores pretty much inevitably go up because they're getting that feedback and they're going, oh, I'm not connecting with the audience on this scene. They missed it. They're not catching that point. And that's allowed for us. We've had films jump from as low as a 40 to an 87 through multiple iterations because they were confusing the audience. And films go from a 50 to like a 90. And so it's a function of a 90 of 100. It's very hard to get up into that 80-90 range in our Angel ecosystem. And so, yes, that is the guild has become, for our really tight partners, a part of their post-production process, where they're using it as this feedback loop in a really meaningful way.
I'm just thinking to myself, sometimes you see a really great movie and you're like, okay, that's a great movie. Other times you're like, okay, that's a great movie, but why did they add, and not even like a bad scene, but I'm just saying where it's,
it can be stuff. And there can be bad scenes.
But I can see how having the analytics, I guess, really essentially to tell them this didn't land, or you need to tell this part a little bit better, or we didn't like this part. I don't know.
You'd be shocked how many movies that are on the edge, PG-13s and even rated R movies, that the core of the story was really interesting. Yeah. The core of the story had a moral through core, but they just threw in a bunch of F words or the Lord's name in vain, or a sex scene or whatever it may be. And a lot of people go, oh, I'd never watched that. If you remove those elements and have the exact same story, you'd be shocked at how good that movie is. Sure. And an example of a movie is actually, I don't know when this is going live, so maybe I shouldn't say this example because we're going to talk about it at Angel Amplify at the end of the month. But we've had examples, I won't say the exact example, but we've had examples of movies that we have released or are going to release that came to us, and they were hard R movies with 35 F words. Oh, wow. And a bunch of Lords in Vain. Yeah. And we're like, guys, you got the story right. Yeah. But this is our mission. Yeah. And if you want to get into Angel's ecosystem and have us distribute you into the world, into 3,000 plus theaters and onto our stream platform and license you to all over the globe, then you've got to follow what the guild's going to say and our North Star. And they're changing their material because they're going and saying, I want to be on the silver screen. Yeah. I'm going to adjust it. I'm going to take all the language out. I'm going to take all. And so it's been really interesting to watch how the directors, they've been trained by the entertainment industry and the executives to put all that stuff in for so long that now they naturally do it. And my thought was, oh, they're going to hate this. Yeah. Some do, but most that I've interacted with are just like, oh, you don't want that in there? That's fine. It's not cool. It's not crucial to my story at all. Yeah. Yeah. I'll take it out. There's some that don't. There's some that get upset about it. But as a general rule, what I've seen is what they want is they want to tell stories at the highest level of mastery physically possible. And if that story serves a studio executive who wants them to put a bunch of garbage in it or do something nihilistic, they'll tell that story.
Sure. Their goal's the story. They just want the story.
Be a craftsman.
Sure. Yes.
And they look at that and just appreciate the craft.
Sure.
But we've seen those same people transition over it. We've had multiple key people around Sound of Freedom, Zero AD. David, they're not even Christian, or maybe they're agnostic or atheist, but they're like, no, but you're telling it at a level that I want to be a part of. And if it tells that story, that's fine. Sure. I don't mind.
Sure.
And so we're actually seeing that talent level is coming over into our ecosystem in a way that we could never have imagined.
You look at Project Hail Mary, that just came out. And
that could have been an angel movie.
Yeah. It would have passed.
Yeah,
because there's really like no bad word. It's just a very good.
No question.
I think
Godzilla -1 is another one.
Yeah, okay.
Great movie.
Yeah.
A breakout moment.
Yeah.
Super true to the core of courage.
Yeah.
And so those are the type of movies that like in 10, 20 years we want to be in that space of, yes, we will always be faith friendly. I'd love to have every Easter and Christmas really something biblical or faith oriented, because that's a core of who we want to be as well. And we believe that most of the world is faith.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun.
So you mentioned, so you don't actually have then the studio, you're not actually ever producing the stuff. You're essentially connecting, not direct, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're essentially connecting users and directors together and doing it that way.
And we're helping them get into financing through different mechanisms, and we're obviously funding them through our royalties and through the memberships. But as for like us being directing on set and telling them where to point the camera, we don't do any of that.
Yeah.
We are creating. I would not be able to. I would probably be able to surround myself with the right people to do something like that. But the reality is, like, I love storytelling. That was embedded in us from a very young age, and we grew up in a very poor family that didn't have access to TV. Or I went to the movies less than 5 times in my entire growing up. I remember going and seeing The Lion King and just being like, wow, this is amazing. In the dollar theater, 6 months after it released, after the reels had gotten all worn out and they sent it to the dollar theater.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my upbringing, and I loved it. But I was like, I'm not a director. I don't feel like that's my gift.
Sure.
But I feel like I'm pretty good at marketing, business, and technology. Maybe we can leverage us as brothers, our gifts in this space, to enable the filmmakers to do something really meaningful and tell really powerful stories.
And to me, I guess that's, again, specializing in what you're really good at. And because most of us can't be good at too many multiple things. We get really good at one, but then I think that's one of the purposes of life, and that's why councils are so important. We counsel together, we talk about things, and that's why I do think that guild, Angel Guild, is actually a very good idea, as far as you're just pooling a lot of people together to figure out how do we make this better.
It's based off the principles in a book called The Wisdom of Crowds.
Okay. And
basically the principles is that when you put communities and crowds in the right sandbox and you give them the right questions and the right framework, you're actually able to get better decision making out of the crowd than you are most any expert.
Sure.
They use the example of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. There was the 3 lifelines. You could ask the audience, you could ask an expert or a friend, or you could do 50-50.
Yeah.
When you ask an expert or a friend, they're right 60-something% of the time. And when you ask the audience, they're right 91% of the time.
Oh, wow.
It's because the aggregate knowledge is able to actually go and find really, like, one of the cool things about it is it's manifested in the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Angel has the highest audience score of any studio in the world, with a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is that because my brothers and I are really good at picking it? No.
It's because you have the other.
We've got 2.2 million people who are. We can tell with our guild score, plus or minus 1 to 3 points, what the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is going to be before we ever release it. And so it's this magical opportunity to tap into that brain of, yes, we leverage artificial intelligence to analyze the data.
Sure.
But we're using real audience intelligence.
Yeah.
Which is much more meaningful than anything else anybody else has. And we're actually willing to not just listen to it, we actually have it make the decisions. It's not a function of, we're not doing lip service of saying, oh yeah, we got to go through the whole voting thing and then we'll just take you anyway. Yeah. That's not how it works at all. You've got to get through the audience before you can ever get considered for distribution.
So how many movies or shows, or what's the pipeline? Like how many per year? What are you guys doing there?
We've announced 10 movies, 9 or 10 movies to theaters this year. And then we've got another probably 7 to 8 TV shows that are going to launch throughout the 2026 year. And then we have a bunch of licensed titles that are coming into the ecosystem from big partners like Lionsgate. We're in conversations with most of the major studios to actually put more and more titles that are the light amplifying of their library onto the streaming platform.
Oh, okay.
So it can be this aggregator of not just the Angel original content, but everything that's been light amplifying throughout history. And so it allows for, we're probably releasing to the platform between our own titles, and because we have dozens in development as a company, and all the other titles that we're bringing into the ecosystem, we'll average more than one a day.
Wow.
In 2026, released onto the platform.
And so then people, so if they are members, they're able to stream those. It's a streaming service like Netflix or whatever.
Yep.
So okay.
You can stream it on Angel as a guild member. It's kind of like having a Costco membership where you're an executive member at Costco and you go shop at Costco. Well, you can go stream on Angel as a guild member, and there's special perks that come with that. One of them being every premium guild member gets 2 free tickets to every Angel theatrical release.
Okay.
So they can actually go and help drive the community grassroots movement of every film that goes to theaters.
And how are those doing? You mentioned the 7 or 8 movies you got releasing. Those doing well and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about Theatrical is it's really the marketing engine drives the downstream revenues.
Sure.
But we've learned through building out data integrations with all the 90-something% of the exhibitors, we now have the ticketing platform built on the Angel app and on angel.com and on our TV apps, to where instead of going to Fandango or Atom, you're actually buying your tickets in our ecosystem.
Just directly from you, sure.
And we do that because it allows us to have the first-party data to properly optimize our marketing budgets for our films. The biggest risk of going to theaters is you spend a ton on marketing, doesn't do well, and then you're out all that marketing. So what we've done is we've right-sized our marketing budgets based on real-time performance leading up to the release, 8 weeks out, all the way up to the release, and that's allowed us to where we don't care if we do $5 million in the domestic box office or $80 million. It doesn't really matter because we're right-sizing our marketing budget to make sure it matches what the movie deserves. And so it's become this really cool flywheel of it goes to theaters, drives a bunch of awareness, goes on the stream platform, drives a bunch of membership, and then the next movie does the same thing and does the same thing. But on top of that, because of our direct response marketing background, of all the independent studios in the world right now, Angel is the highest per theatrical average, period. It's beating out A24, Focus Films, Neon, you name it.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that and you start contemplating that we've only been in the theatrical business for 3 years and they've been in for decades, we're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah. Tell me the average not marketing budget, but the budget to making those films and stuff like that. So obviously
it varies a lot. Okay. You've got films that we've taken to theaters, like His Only Son was one of our first movies we took to theaters. It was a $250,000 budget.
Wow. Okay, so not
and
much.
And it did $12 million in the box office.
Oh, wow.
And it does super well on the streaming platform.
Yeah.
And it was in the top 10 on Amazon Prime.
Wow.
So it's just, it's such a great film. But the audience saw something special there, and the filmmaker had spent basically 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears to produce something that looks like a multi-million-dollar budget.
Yeah.
But he did it for almost nothing.
Yeah.
And then we've had movies like Cabrini that were $40 million budgets. And David is a $50+ million budget. And so it just varies based on the film and the title. But I think you can make really, as AI comes into the picture, it's going to drive the cost down significantly, which is a good thing because honestly, the entertainment industry doesn't have a revenue problem. They have a cost problem.
Okay.
They spend too much on productions.
Sure.
I just saw a news article today that says that they're going to spend $400 million on Avengers Doomsday.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to spend $300 million on marketing, which means they have to do $1.7 billion to break even in the box office. So it's that type of bets. Yes, they have big payoffs if they work, but the reality is with the reason those are so high is because there's so much what we call soft costs. Hard costs are the costs of the camera and the production sets, and those are the hard costs of a production. You got to pay for those no matter what.
Sure.
The soft costs are the fees of all the actors and all the people that are around the production. And because the studios and the streamers have built a system that doesn't give back in to any of their producing partners or the actors, everybody's lobbying for the highest fees as physically possible.
Sure.
Whereas with Angel, we give 2/3 of all the profits back to the filmmakers. And we give 50% of all our streaming profits back to the filmmakers. And that causes them to have an incentive to go and say, hey, I don't need to spend. I literally had meetings with people where they'd be like, I've got this cool TV show, here it is. They walk me through it. And then I walk them through our model, and I'm like, so how much would your TV show cost? And they're like, before you walk me through your model, I was thinking like $30 to $40 million.
Yeah.
I could probably do this for 10, because they're realizing I don't need to go make all my money
up front.
Yeah, don't pad your pockets with your production budgets. Pad your pockets with your profits.
Yeah.
Think of it as like a businessman, an entrepreneur.
Yeah, they're looking at it the same way you are.
Yeah.
Which then helps with, that makes sense. I love that. It's a good model. I love that.
It's just incentive alignment.
Yeah. I was just going to say they have the. You just said it better. Yeah, incentive alignment. Right?
Charlie Munger, I think he's passed away now, obviously, but before he died, he just said, Show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome.
Yeah.
Incentive alignment, once you get into the business world, you start realizing, oh, that happened because this was the incentive. Well, and so you can just flip the incentive and figure out how to make a different outcome.
And isn't that what the last actor, they were on strike for a little while? Wasn't it something about that? It was about streaming because they weren't getting any money post.
They were all striking to get streamers to pay them profits on their productions that based on the performance in the ecosystem, and they got nothing.
Okay.
And we're doing that willingly.
Yeah, that's what your model is.
It's one of the big parts of what I think is going to cause us to stand out over the next 10 years is the best talent in the industry will want their projects to go into Angel first, because the upside of us paying out timeless residuals if they have timeless art.
Wow. Yeah, just forever they're able to get money and stuff like that. So you're 3 years in, you said, right?
3 years into the guild membership part of the business.
Yeah, sure. Yes, I know you've been.
There are multiple pivots throughout the 13 years, but yes.
Okay.
The company started 12, 13 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then tell me, fast forward 5 years from now or 10 years from now, where do you see this company going? Where do you see this going?
People always ask that. I think for us, we started this company because we were looking at the degradation of the culture, how quickly it was spiraling, and we've known that stories, the entertainment industry and stories is what predominantly causes the direction of culture. So whatever's predominantly consumed today is what our culture is going to look like in 20 years. It's going to happen inevitably. And so back in 2012, 2013, House of Cards, Game of Thrones, those were the big shows back in that time period. And we were just looking at them and saying, do we want our world to look like House of Cards or Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Although DC already looks like House of Cards. But anyway, but that being said, we started saying, okay, let's reinvent this. And we just kind of had to reinvent every step of the way. And so the more penetration these stories get that we're doing and the more profitable are, the more impact they're going to have around the globe, which is going to cause for a cultural impact in 10, 20, 30 years. And so for me, I just want Angel's name to be associated with some of the most timeless stories throughout history in 10, 20 years that my children and my grandchildren are able to sit in front of the TV, watch an Angel film or TV show, and be enlightened, not have their soul deteriorated by sitting in front of that screen.
Sure.
So how that looks in the grand scheme of things, I guess we're going to find out. But that's the big underlying motivation. I've got 6 kids. All my brothers have a lot of kids. There's 9 siblings between all the Harmons, 62, maybe 63 grandkids. It's a wild ride, but that's the underlying motivation. Do I think that has the potential to go and compete with Netflix and Prime? I do.
Yeah.
I actually think it has the ability to have hundreds of millions of subscribers around the world. We call them members, but that'll just come with time.
Because your library will only continue to increase as you're going on.
The quality continues to go up, and it's just people are going to come off of Angel, and they're going to every time they stream something, they're going to be like, man, that was a fantastic experience.
Sure.
Super fun. We could have super fun movies. We've got an action movie we just announced today called Runner. It's with Alan Ritchson and Owen Wilson, and they're going basically to take this kidney to this little girl, but the kidney's really rare, and so these guys are trying to basically
steal it or something.
But it's this beautiful story, this very heartwarming story that's action-packed, but it's got a core that's pretty amazing.
And you got Owen Wilson in there. I love him.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, so...
I saw the first comment on the YouTube trailer that we launched today or yesterday, and it says, if Owen Wilson doesn't say, wow, at least once, I'm walking out of the theater. Gotta, wow.
And as you guys continue to go on, are you finding more and more authority, clout, that you're getting, people are like, oh, okay, I've heard of you. I know, where you're able to then get some of those bigger actors, bigger films kind of thing?
I think we're already punching pretty far above our weight.
Yeah.
Alan Ritchson is top 20 actor in the world right now.
Okay. Yeah.
And obviously he's on the Reacher series with Amazon Prime and stuff. So we're having some really exciting conversations with the highest level of directors in the world, and it's very exciting.
That's awesome.
But they're coming knowing that they've got to make sure that their story aligns with the values of our North Star, which is to tell those stories that amplify light. And so it's been fun to watch which ones are really excited about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more than I would have expected at this phase in our company.
Good.
So those announcements will continue to trickle out.
Sure. Love what you're doing with Angel
Studios. I would love to talk more about those announcements, but now that we're a public company, you have to be more careful about what I say publicly. So.
I understand. Yeah, no, even here in Lehi, we'll let you say that. I love what you're doing with Angel Studios. It sounds like you guys are doing really well, and I think only going to continue to do well. Do your brothers live around here, or where do they live? Yes,
most of us live in Lehi. Jeff's in Lehi. We got a couple other brothers and 2 sisters that live in Lehi.
Okay.
And then Neil, the other brother who co-founded and the CEO, he's in Provo. He lives over by BYU. And then let's see, where's everybody else? Daniel, one of the other co-founders, and he's producing the Tuttle Twins TV show, which is a kids TV show about freedom and economics. It's just such a fun show. Top shows on our platform. They're in their 4th season. He's the showrunner and producer of that. He lives in Mapleton. So we're all in Utah County area and close by, but it's been, we love Utah. Yeah.
Do you see, as you continue to grow, more benefit to Lehi and stuff like that, I guess? As far as your platform's not one that you need maybe a lot of employees, I guess. Yeah. I'm not thinking you're building an Adobe building here, right?
Sure. But the offices are in Provo right now on Center Street. You got the Dry Bar Comedy, and then we've taken over a couple buildings side by side. I think we're in 3 buildings now over there, and we've got about 300 employees. And so we'll continue to grow and help support Utah County in any way we can. And like I said, I love Lehi, and I think it's a great city, and we've loved raising our 6 kids here, and it's been fun.
And 300 employees, that's more than I thought that actually then. So it does take more employees than,
we're more of a technology company disguised as a studio.
Okay.
Meaning the 300 employees are predominantly engineers or product type engineers. And we've built all of our technology proprietary. And so it's a very fast growing business that is requiring a lot, but it's exciting to watch it continue to grow.
Do you see needed to hire more employees then, I guess, as time goes on?
Constantly hiring. Okay. Yeah, you can go to Angel Jobs online, and there's always openings.
There's always something there.
There's always something there. I mean, sometimes, will we ever stop hiring?
Yeah, sure.
But it feels like you want to grow. But at the same time, I don't mind, because it's the more we grow and the more jobs we can create, and the more excited I am. So it'll be fun.
You mentioned AI and stuff like that. Are you seeing any kind of change? Do you think that'll bring the cost down, and how would that bring the cost down with movies?
So visual effects for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, AI is going to anything procedural, AI is eating for breakfast.
Okay.
And I actually think AI is going to bring about a renaissance of creativity to where there's 1,000 movies independently produced a year. I'll bet it goes to 5,000.
Okay.
Because it's giving tools and accessibility to people with creative ideas all over the world. And the same goes for technology. Like AI, Claude is absolutely remarkable in how it's coding and stuff, and people are terrified of, now it's going to cause massive layoffs. And I'm like, no, I think that's just a lack of creativity. We have, every time we do our quarterly product roadmaps, we'll have 3 to 6 priorities, and we have 150 other ideas that we wish we could get to.
Yeah.
We now have the ability to go get to those ideas and hire more people to go do that. And so I'm seeing the opposite. All the doomsdayers who are like, this is going to totally wreck the economy. And I'm like, no, I think it's going to actually expand every aspect of our lives. And so I come up from more of having seen multiple cycles of technology that's innovated worlds. To me, those generally create abundance, not the opposite.
Sure.
People have to innovate, and they got to figure out and learn how to use the technology.
Adapt.
You do have to adapt, but those, it's gonna be remarkable. It's gonna be fun.
I guess I think of back when I was a kid, there was America's Funniest Home Videos, and everybody sent in their stuff. But now we have reels and different things. It's like just the creativity and the funniness of people, right? It's like, that guy's hilarious.
Exactly.
And he's not a stand-up comedian on some show or something like that. There's just a lot of funny people out there.
And people to that point, people might go, now America's Funny Home Videos doesn't exist anymore. And so you're right, but now there's a multi-$100 billion industry of people creating TikToks and YouTubes, and they're all creating America's Funny Homes videos, and they're all benefiting from it. And so it'll evolve, and we'll continue to adapt as a civilization. But we're excited to continue to tell stories that will hopefully center the culture's heart on truth and on what I believe God wants us to do. Yeah, love that. Jordan, thank you for explaining all this. Is there anything we didn't cover that we didn't hit on here as far as Angel Studios? Not
or
really.
Anything like that?
I'm sure there's lots of things that we could have talked about, but thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So the future's bright for Angel Studios. Going to keep going.
It's going to be fun.
Going to keep really innovating, keep changing and stuff like that, and we'll get you here in Lehi. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you explaining everything, and I wish all the success to you guys. So
thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Roots and Branches of Lehi. I hope today's story helped you feel a little more connected to the people who make up our community. Remember, every person here has a unique story, and together, we're what makes Lehi feel like home. If you know someone who would be a great fit for this podcast, please fill out the form in the show notes so we can reach out and schedule an interview. We'd love to hear from you. A big thank you to our sponsors, the Work Harding Home Mortgage Team and Play Harding Nightly Vacation Rentals, for supporting this show and helping us bring our community closer together. Until next time, keep growing those roots and reaching out to your branches. Take care.